Most decisions don't fail because people are unintelligent. They fail because people are using the wrong thinking tools. CEOs who consistently make high-stakes, high-accuracy decisions, year after year, in environments of enormous uncertainty, aren't smarter than you. They've installed a different operating system for their thinking. 5 specific mental models that filter noise, eliminate cognitive bias, and point toward the highest leverage move in any situation. These aren't theoretical frameworks. They're the actual cognitive tools running beneath some of the most consequential decisions in business history. And every one of them is learnable. Decision-making is the highest paid skill on earth. A CEO of a major company doesn't get compensated for working the most hours. They get compensated for making the fewest, most consequential decisions correctly. The gap between a $100,000 a year decision maker and a $10 million a year decision maker isn't raw intelligence. It isn't experience alone. It's the quality of their mental models, the invisible frameworks through which they process reality and translate ambiguity into action. Today, we break down 5 of the most powerful frameworks used consistently by Buffett, Munger, Bezos, and others who have built empires by turning uncertainty into clarity. Charlie Munger keeps a mental library of legendary failures, not to dwell on them, but to use them as navigation. His core thinking tool is inversion. Instead of asking, "How do I succeed?" he asks, "What would guarantee I fail?" Then he removes those conditions with surgical precision. He once said, "All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there." It sounds morbid. It's actually the clearest decision-making framework ever articulated. The entire history of aviation safety was built on this principle, studying crashes in forensic detail, not to assign blame, but to guarantee those exact conditions could never repeat. This is Mental Model 1, Inversion. The application in practice. Before your next significant decision, take 10 focused minutes and write out every way it could fail. Not minor setbacks, catastrophic outcomes. Then engineer your plan around eliminating those conditions first. Most decision-making processes invest 90% of their energy optimizing the upside. Inversion forces you to armor the downside first. The decisions that survive this process are worth making. The ones that collapse under it were never as sound as they appeared. Jeff Bezos built Amazon's entire strategic advantage on one cognitive discipline, thinking further ahead than his competitors were willing to commit to. He didn't just ask, "What will customers want this year?" He asked, "What will customers want in 10 years? And what infrastructure do we need to build today to be ready for that world?" This is second-order thinking, and it is devastatingly rare. Most people operate in first-order effects. If I do X, then Y happens. Second-order thinkers push further. If Y happens, then what? And what comes after that? The third or fourth consequence is almost always where the real risk or the real opportunity is hiding, invisible to everyone operating in first order. This mental model 2, second-order thinking. The exercise is demanding but learnable. Take any decision you're currently weighing and write out the first-order consequence. Then ask, "And then what?" 3 more times. Force yourself to follow the chain. The decisions that look brilliant in the short term often look disastrous 2 or 3 steps later. Second-order thinking lets you see around corners before you arrive at them, while competitors are still focused on what's directly in front of them. Elon Musk used first principles reasoning to enter an industry that had locked itself into conventional thinking for decades. When he began exploring commercial spaceflight, the consensus was that rocket launches cost roughly $65 million per mission. Musk asked a different question. What are rockets actually made of? What do those raw materials cost at market price? The answer was approximately 2% of the prevailing launch price. The markup wasn't physics. It wasn't engineering necessity. It was decades of unchallenged assumptions, legacy contracts, and institutional inertia presented as immovable reality. By reasoning from first principles, from base-level verified truth, he found a path that every established player said was impossible. This is Mental Model 3. First principles reasoning. Application. Identify one core assumption in your business, career, or financial situation that everyone around you accepts without question. Ask, why is this actually true? Repeatedly, until you reach bedrock fact rather than inherited convention. What you find at the bottom is frequently a constraint that exists only in people's minds, not in material reality. The organizations and individuals who find these false floors consistently outperform those who never question them. In 1994, Jeff Bezos held a senior vice president role at a high-prestige hedge fund in New York. A stable, well-compensated, high-status position by any measure. He wanted to leave to start an internet bookseller out of a garage. His bosses thought it was career suicide. He used a framework he called regret minimization to make the decision. He projected himself to age 80, looked back at his life from that vantage point, and asked a single question. Will I regret not having tried this? The answer was unambiguous. And the follow-up question, will I regret leaving a stable job at 30 to attempt something ambitious? Almost certainly not. Not against a backdrop of decades wondering what might have been. He left. This is the framework that launched Amazon. This is Mental Model 4, regret minimization. Most major decisions feel enormous inside the anxiety of the present moment, and trivial in retrospect. The framework inverts your perspective. You make the decision from the end of your life, not from inside the noise of the current moment. Application. For any major decision involving significant risk, career, capital, relationships, project to age 80, and ask which path you'd look back on with regret. Not which is objectively safer, which you would regret more. The answer surfaces with a clarity that present moment thinking almost never provides. And it consistently points toward the more courageous, higher upside path. Warren Buffett passed on investing in Amazon. He passed on Google. He watched Microsoft from the outside for years without buying a single share. These were not mistakes of analysis. They were deliberate, principled decisions to stay inside what he calls his circle of competence, the narrow domain where his pattern recognition is deep. His judgment has been calibrated over decades, and his conviction is genuine. He has said explicitly that the most dangerous investments aren't the ones that obviously look risky. They're the ones that feel safe because everyone around you is buying. But that lie outside your true domain of knowledge. You're making decisions blind and calling it confidence. This is Mental Model 5, and arguably the most consequential of all. Not because it tells you what to do, because it tells you where your judgment actually ends. And the most consistent outperformers in every field, investing, leadership, science, athletics, are not the people who know the most in absolute terms. They're the people who know with precision where their reliable knowledge ends and uncertainty begins. Application. Draw your actual circle of competence on paper. Not industries you find intellectually interesting. Not areas you've read several articles about. The specific narrow domains where you have deep, tested, real-world knowledge built over years of direct experience. Operate from inside that circle. Expand it deliberately and slowly over time. Every major decision made outside it, without acknowledged uncertainty, is a decision made blind. And blind decisions eventually have a way of finding you. 5 mental models. 5 cognitive upgrades that operate beneath the surface of every great decision made under pressure, uncertainty, and high stakes. Inversion. Design around failure before you optimize for success. Second-order thinking. Follow the consequence chain 3 steps further than your competition. First principles. Challenge the assumptions everyone else accepts as fixed reality. Regret minimization. Make the decision from the end of your life, not from inside present moment anxiety. Circle of competence. Know precisely where your judgment is reliable, and where it becomes noise you're mistaking for signal. You don't master these in a single week. You install them one at a time, one decision at a time, until they become the default operating system your thinking runs on. And when they do, the quality of your decisions, and the trajectory of everything those decisions touch, will reflect it. If this changed how you think, subscribe. I break down these frameworks every week, the psychology, habits, and mental models of the world's highest performers, distilled into tools you can apply immediately. Drop a comment below. Which of these 5 mental models are you bringing into your decision-making first?